I welcome you to our Balancing the Wheel of Life. So with me, I have Dr. D. You are aware of who Dr. D is. I also have Elder Machando. They will be helping me to balance the wheel for the youths. As the youths, I have here two young, very beautiful girls who are going to introduce themselves. We'll start with the one on my left.
Okay, they all know me, except a few from Philippus. I'm Sandra Moyo, and I'm a staff member here. I work at the library department.
Thank you, Sandra.
Hi, guys. Okay, so I'm Tandelo Tungwenya from Philippus Central Church. Currently, I'm awaiting graduation, so I can't say I'm a student or neither am I an alumni. I'm somewhere in between.
Thank you, girls. So the two young adults that I have with me are here to help manage the adult expectations. So where we feel that the adults are skewed too much to common sense, the two young adults here will tell us, that's not going to work. The first issue that we want to handle, and I'm glad you are waiting for graduation, and Sandy, you are already working. At what point do you think you should start helping out in the home? I'll ask either Dr. D or the elder to give us at what point we started when we were growing up. And by helping in the home, I'm not just talking about cleaning up. I am talking about actually monetary help. It's common cause that a lot of children who start working will stay at home, will live with the parents. At what point do you think, these working young adults should start chipping in at home? Dr. D?
So, I think young people should start helping from as young as possible, starting with helping with house chores. We started doing everyone's washing in primary school. We would think about meals and we would help prepare meals from primary school. My mom was very strict on making sure that everyone, including the boys, so my brothers could mop, could shine the floors, they can cook, even now. And I think people should start being helpful from a young age. Then, as far as helping financially is concerned, as soon as I completed Form 4, I started working a temporary job, even before the results came, and I started making a contribution to the family. I remember I went to Edgar's to buy my parents' clothes when I was before 20, and I've been helping the family
since then?
Since throughout, yeah.
Okay. Elder?
This is my belief. If you are not happy with the status as we speak right now and you want to improve yourself, a person should not improve himself or herself in the future, but he should raise the status of his origin so that it talks to the future that he wants. So it is the duty of every child to make sure when you leave home, you should leave it in a status that when your child visits that very same place, he is as comfortable as he is where he is staying. There must not be this difference. I therefore say, as soon as a person becomes ambitious, no matter if a dollar or if a 1 cent, you should start investing in the current so that it speaks to the future.
Thank you. So those two positions were for what our parents expect from us. And I hope you all heard that. Ladies.
For example, Mrs. Machando, before you go further, for example, you will see there are a lot of young people who would want to see their girlfriend's hair well done. But at his place, nobody has any hair that has been done.
No system.
He knows the market is looking for this, but the market that he is representing has nothing to offer.
Right. it. So, and I wish we had a boy up here. But anyway, who wants to take a go at this? When do you think is the right time? You have been sent to college, you have finished, you have started working. At what point do you think is the right time to start helping back home? And I'm not putting a ceiling. It could even be just helping your little sister with $10. At whatever help you're thinking of, at what stage should you start?
I say my situation is a bit different. I have a rural background. I grew up in rural areas, yeah. And you don't wait until you get a job to help your parents. You do everything, even if you don't have a proper job, even if you're not educated. So I just, my father managed to take me through primary and secondary education, but then I didn't manage to source the tertiary part. Then I did it myself. So I can say I started doing jobs that has nothing to do with education, so that I can get money to be a qualified person, to have a skill. So I started taking care of my parents when I was actually a young girl at 17, after educational level.
Thank you very much, Sandy. So she's saying you don't have to wait to be educated. You can even do it before. Tando.
Okay, so maybe it's probably from the generation that I come from. And I'm supposed to fill my cup first so that I can be able to pour onto others. So like I should help myself get to a certain state and then start chipping in at home. Isn't that how it's supposed to be?
So if you take that route, at what stage is your cup full so that you can then start pouring on the cup behind you?
And also how big the cup is.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I'm saying I have to get my cup filled first, it's like I'll be able to do whatever that I want for myself. I can manage to say, okay, today I want to take my mom on a trip to Victoria Falls. It doesn't strain me. Even if I'm helping her, I don't leave a dent in my pocket. That's what I'm asking. Isn't that how it's supposed to be? Like, if I get to a certain stage, now I can afford to do this and this, then I can start chipping in at home? Or is it now that I'm still struggling, I have to struggle along with them so that I get to a certain stage?
Okay, you want to come in, Dr. D?
So that's very interesting that the young people want to fill their cups first. We never filled our cups. We would forgo a lot of luxuries that we would have wanted. But we sacrifice, we still do for the young people. But it's unfortunate that they are looking at not getting a dent in their pockets.
I can see you are amazed. You don't know how to carry on.
If we did that, things would not work out. I'm telling you, there are so many things that as parents, as adults, we forego. But, and she's right, I suppose she's representing a lot of our young people who are thinking about themselves first, who are thinking about their needs first and wanting to fulfill them, when we have not fulfilled our own needs, even up to now.
Okay, so that's I think a powerful point, Dr. D, which she has rightly responded to by saying, I possibly don't want to be running on an empty, half-full cup. I want my cup to be full first, and then I'll look around and start emptying. That's what she's saying. The elder asked you a very important question. How big is the cup? And when do you think it will be filled? Because Yeah, you could get to our age and your cup is still unfilled.
Okay, there's a possibility of adjusting the size of the cup when I get to a stage where I feel like I can now pay my bills, maybe let's say I get to have a kid, I can pay for my child's school fees and whatever and still feel no pain. Then I can help my mother and possibly my siblings. Because at some point I feel like if I'm helping at home, isn't that their responsibility as parents to actually take care of the home? I am my own responsibility and they have the responsibility of everyone else at home.
All right, let's go on to the spiritual perspective. Elder, I think the Bible is quite clear, and the verse, John 3, verse 16, has been talked about by almost all the presenters so far, that giving, real giving, is painful. So maybe you could chip in, Elder.
First of all, let me speak to the filling of the cup. If you are the one who is designing the cup, you can say at this particular point, my cup will be filled. Unfortunately, life is dynamic. Even vehicles change every year. Mortgages are lifelong. This cup will never be filled because there is something new under the sun every day. So if we have a cup that is being decided on social media and technological advances, your cup will never be filled. So we will always wait and nothing is going to come back home. This is the reason why many of our children are saying we should not look at them as an investment, but a liability. But unfortunately, it's not like that. God never had a pension plan. The only pension plan that was there was reproduction. Yeah, fine. Now, coming back to the biblical thing, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. The difference between me and God is I think of myself first before I think of others. Yet God is in the business of thinking of everyone else except himself. So basically, this is how life was supposed to be. Where in that particular compartment of a family cycle you are, you should be thinking of how others can be made happy at your expense. Unfortunately, we want to be comfortable before we give away the overflow. When you give away overflow, you are not giving anything. It is nature that is throwing away surplus. Giving is only, it does make sense when you are sacrificing something for someone. For example, you could have bought a 50,000 worthy of a car, then you make a decision to buy something 20,000 so that you can take the other children through college. But if you want a car, then give them extra. They will never be schooled, those people. Or they will be schooled the hard way.
So we are talking about balancing the wheel of life. Why is this important? Because we are balancing needs. My needs, those who I love's needs, and the general world's needs. Dr. D, from a psychological point of view, there seems to be some indication that giving can actually be filling. Maybe you could just talk to us about that a bit.
Okay. So we spoke in the morning about feel-good chemicals. So there is evidence that when you give, you actually get what we call gratification. You get fulfilled. You get a sense of fulfillment, right? Simple things, including just giving a compliment, looking out and giving good feedback to others. It actually makes your brain release feel-good chemicals. So giving is good, it makes you feel good. And I also wanted to say on the issue of children giving their parents, there is an error that a lot of children make to think that if my parents are working and maybe they even make more money than you, there's no need for you to give them. Giving is on the spiritual aspect. For God so loved that he gave. So when we give, it's also it's an activity that people who are in love do. You cannot love and not give. So, and you don't have to be rich for you to give back to your parents. Okay, so when we buy children chips and we give them, and then we ask for the chips, we are teaching you to give. And we are expecting you to start giving as early as possible. Don't wait until your cup is full for you to then start to give. So even rich parents, even parents who are well-to-do, they are also expecting gifts. It can be a pair of socks, it can be a perfume, it can be anything, but learn to give. Don't wait until your parents die and then you are crying at the grave because you're waiting for your cup to be full.
Thank you, Dr. D. Sandy, you said you started giving when you were young. Did anything that Dr. D say resonate with you? Did you feel any feel-good emotions coming up when you were giving to your parents?
What I can say is there were no feel-good emotions. I think I was fulfilling an obligation.
It was duty.
Yeah, it was a duty
Okay.
because I was young by then. But now, because I'm now a bit older, I understand the aspect of giving. Now I can have that happy mood.
Okay. So when I was growing up, I also went to a boarding school. I would leave my clothes in the wardrobe at home. And every holiday I would come back, there would be no clothes in my wardrobe. And my mom, bless her, would tell me that such and such cousin of yours visited. She was ill. You know they can't afford. So I gave her 2 of your dresses. And the neighbors, brothers, something came. The child that she came with did not have anything warm, so I gave her your things. Like Sandy said, it was painful. But when I grew up older, I noticed that giving was not so much as painful as it was when I was young. It's now difficult for me to sit with things in my wardrobe. I don't put them on, and I know that there's a lot of people who don't have. So these are things that have to be taught. What did you say? You are growing new pathways in your brain when you are old. That's why when you are young, that's why you have to start when you are young. If you wait until your cup is full, you have already developed pathways of self and self. There's no way you're going to be able to see that anybody else needs anything. Unfortunately, those are the things that are causing a lot of our depression, a lot of our dysfunction in our children. Anyway, Elder, do you want to say anything else before we leave this topic?
Maybe I've developed a question. Could I be said to be giving when I'm taking care of my child? And would my child be said to be giving when she or he is taking care of me? Or this is an obligation?
I would say it's a bit of both.
I'm asking.
You're asking,
yes,
Tando?
My daughters to say, can I stand up in church? And if they say they want someone who is kind-hearted, who is giving, then I stand up. I gave my daughter $20. I gave my
It's more like an obligation.
Why is it then giving when it comes to me as a father? Why is it charity when it comes to me?
Because you're older, you're supposed to take care of the younger ones.
You see, I was saying, ma'am, is I think our children should know this thing. They should separate obligation from charity.
All right. Mm-hmm.
And you have not started giving when you are taking care of your parent or your sibling.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't started giving.
Mm-hmm.
You start giving now when it's about us, who are not your immediate or whatever you may call them. Therefore, if you are having a problem in taking care of your parent or your sibling,
your own obligations,
therefore you will never give.
So the elder is very correct there. The other thing about the wheel of life is you start out the child. Your parents will also end up your children. So if you don't learn to take care of them right from the get-go, you will not be able to do so at the end when they need you the most. And the Bible is clear. You honor your father and mother. How do you honor them? By waiting to fill your cup and then? No, that won't do. So the wheel of life is not just individual. It's societal. So what goes up will have to come down. When you are old, you would have taught your own children that keep your cup full and then see about me. That won't work. Let's go to another matter that is of a great concern to me. It's about covenanting, the friendships, the relationships that you make covenants with. There's a story that the elder told me when he came back from one of the youths that there was a boyfriend and a girlfriend there who had made a blood covenant. And when I shared this story with my children, it turned out it's something that's actually happening quite a lot. So I think let's start with the elder here. What are we talking about when we are talking about covenanting, and should our children be getting into it? What does the Bible say about this?
It's a very long story. I'll summarize it this way. People jocularly make covenants. And let me talk of this covenanting first, the one that you are referring to, where like the young lady and the young man, they make a blood covenant. Prick your finger, I prick mine, you take my blood, I take yours. We make a commitment, we shall be together always. The challenge that we are having when we are making covenants is, covenants are spiritual.
Yes, they are.
You may be seeing the emotional side of issues, but you cannot read the mind that is taking you into the covenant. If the mind that is taking you into the covenant is does already have a covenant, whether directly or indirectly. When I mean indirectly, it was done by parents. When they had a covenant with a spiritual covenant somewhere else, you are entangling yourself in spiritualism where you are not prepared. Why? Because you are only looking as far as your nose are. So issues of covenanting are issues of blood, and they are spiritual. You may end up being who you are not. That's number one. Even by word of mouth, where you meet a lady and you say, I will marry you. When you have made a commitment, the Lord wants the commitment to be fulfilled.
That's true.
Because that's the reason why the Lord does not want you to commit before it's time to commit. You are in love, you are in love. Do not tell someone you are going to marry when you are making an assessment. You may think you are raising the graph, but you may be creating challenges. So in either of the ways, it is wrong to make a covenant by promise and to make a covenant by blood. The issue of blood is much more serious because it is more spiritual and it has got more spiritual heartaches than what we think. And I also had an incident with a young man who went out there because he wanted muti for business. And he was told the muti requires a woman. And you know what? He went and made a covenant with a lady. The lady is well supplied, but what she does not know is she's now married to the spirit. But because people are myopic, they just see what they want to see. This is where we are with most of our children. And I'll bet my last dollar, of all my children seated here, one of them has a covenant, and one of them has dug his own grave.
Thank you, Elder. Dr. D, covenanting. Is there an age when a person is able to stand their own ground and say, I can take this covenant by myself. I don't need my father or my mother to help me with this. I can covenant into this relationship by myself.
I am worried about people who want to make decisions outside their inner circle. Because even taking the example of Jesus, he had 12 friends, and he had 3 close friends, and even up to the cross, he had his brothers, he had his mother, he had his family. Under normal circumstances, your family members have your best interest. I don't see where a person might become of an age where they don't need family. We actually see that a lot of mental health problems arise because a person has lost their significant others, their family connections. Even though there might be some instances where maybe in families there's abuse and other issues like that, which is not, if it's because there are issues with the family, okay. But otherwise, under normal circumstances, it's important to involve family in relationships, and even when you get married, even when you have children, it's important to make sure that those family ties are strong throughout your lifetime.
Thank you, Dr. D. So she's talking about the importance of having a buffer to help you make up your mind wisely. Sandy.
Maybe as follow-up, Mrs. Machando.
Mm-hmm.
How can 2 people who are in love be not satisfied with the idea that we are in love and still want some more, like this covenant, then appear as though they've done nothing outside the norm?
Mm-hmm.
Because by asking to go a step further, that means there is a reason for that. The fact that you are ignorant to the reason why you are being taken into such does not make you innocent. Because if there was an opportunity to know and you decided not to know, then automatically the problem is on you. And I hope it can be spoken of with the agents that it desires. People must not enter into covenants until the marriage covenant has been put in place. It's as simple as that. What happens to the covenant should you break the relationship?
So, thank you, Elder. So without asking you girls if you are in any current covenant that is unknown to your parents, first of all, is this something that's happening? I think you could just say yes or no, or not to my knowledge. Is this something that's happening?
Maybe before I answer your question, I have a question.
Yes.
I've heard some people say when you are a virgin, you break your virginity. That's a covenant. How far true is that? You've made a covenant. And what if maybe one of the partners is not a virgin?
Okay. So I do not want us to be talking about virginity. That was not the particular covenant I was talking about. But the elder can quickly answer that one so that we get it out of the way and you answer my question. Elder?
The biblical position is when you go to bed with someone you have not made a covenant. It's not a covenant. As such, it is you have fallen into sin. What is required is for you to repent and become whole again. So you haven't made a covenant. So should someone take away your virginity as a young man or a young woman, it's not a covenant. it's a foolishness displayed.
All right. So you were going to answer the question, are covenants being made by the young people or not?
It's not something that I'm aware of. I have no idea about it.
Okay. Tendo?
Okay, so I've actually heard a lot about those covenants, but I, for one, I'm very scared of commitment. Even thinking about marriage kind of freaks me out. So I wouldn't think of getting myself into that kind of a blood covenant with someone. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, girls. What age do you think is appropriate for a young person to get into any covenant? And what should be the protecting pillars around that person?
Maybe we need some clarity. And even when I spoke about involving family, I'm not talking about covenants. I'm talking about proper relationships and getting married. So we cannot be talking about any age that is appropriate for getting into a covenant unless if you are referring to marriage.
Yes, we would be referring to marriage. Okay, let me break this down. The first covenant when it comes to relationship would probably be the yes that I am giving to the guy who's asking me out. Because that yes is not a yes that God would look at lightly. Remember, Mary, Joseph, they were engaged to be married, but the Lord recognized that as a marriage. So your yes to the other person is not a lightly yes. It's not something that you can just say. So those are some of the covenant pillars that I am talking about. At what age can my daughter say to a man, yes, I will be your girlfriend, unhelped?
Okay. So I would not talk about age per se. Knowing what we know now, love is a very powerful emotion, like very powerful. It takes away your senses, it takes away your thoughts, it takes away your behavior. It changes your behavior, it changes everything, it changes your focus. So there are a lot of people who have actually lost out in terms of their grades, in terms of their academic pursuit, things that, what they were pursuing academically or even professionally. And sadly, we see them coming for therapy when things go wrong. And this is when the person cannot self-sustain. So the key issues, and I'm talking from an adult point of view and also from a therapist point of view, where you see women, or usually it's women, who are struggling in abusive relationships, in loveless relationships, in relationships that are filled with infidelity, disease even, but they cannot wriggle out because they cannot self-sustain. So the key for me would be self-sustainability. It has to be an age when whatever is happening, you can make a free choice into it. Not for the choice to be made for you because you don't have bus fare to even live, because you don't have food, you don't have rent. You should only stay for love and commitment, not because you need someone to take care of you. So self-sustainability is the key. There are some people who have been persuaded, oh, you complete when I'm with you, oh, let's get married, or let's get into a relationship, and then we'll do this together, and usually it never happens. So it's safe for you to make sure that you are walking into a relationship on an equal footing, and you are not getting into a relationship because you need to be taken care of.
Okay, so some of the dangers that come out that you expose yourself to the harm that you can't see because you are high on love. Elder, I just wondered if you could just let us know a bit, when it comes to balancing this wheel of life, the covenants that we make, the promises that we make, how important are those before God? Is it something that we should be doing at all or not?
Maybe allow me to define balance, because there is balance as in apportioning time. There is balance as in smoothness in movement. For example, if something is rotating, we say it's dynamically balanced when it is rotating uniformly, or there is no wobbling. Now, most of the activities and most of the commitments that we make, they imbalance the will. So much so that a person is busy putting in order things that have been put into disorder by willful choices. So, for example, for many of us seated here, relationships are like toys.
Yeah.
They keep us happy. They keep us going. That's why
Something
you've
to
got more
play
than
with.
one. Wherever you are, at least you need a toy every day. My daughter buys a doll every time she goes to the shop. Why? Because it makes you feel good. Most of the relationships are toys. But before God, they were not toys. Because you don't do careless work when dealing with human feelings. But now, unfortunately, people can have a part-time relationship to maintain stability of their imbalanced life whilst imbalancing someone else's life. That's the reason why you find most of the people, they say, yes, he impregnated me, but this is not my type of a husband. Why? Because they made a commitment out of time. So I always say, God, when you make a commitment, God takes it seriously. And you cannot say God is misbehaving. Why? Because he has told you beforehand, don't make commitments unless you are clear of the commitment. So this is my take. When you are looking at a human being, remember the Lord loves that human being like nobody's business. You cannot do careless work. Neither can you utter a careless word. In case you are touching an apple of his eye. Because you do not know the relationship that young lady or that young man has with his master. And you want to make your whole life a joke. Because yours is a joke. It may be the end of blessings to your siblings and your children and what have you. Some of the cases that we call generational cases, as it was living a careless life where carelessness was not expected. That's how it is. Because there are some people who are true to principle, like an Idu is to the north. So by the end of the day, if they are true, the Lord is guarding them jealously, and he knows whatever promise has been made in their life. So it is my appeal to every person that we must never commit where we are not committed, neither should we trifle with human hearts or take anyone for granted or use anyone to our advantage because we want to satisfy a feeling of the moment. God is not going to forgive such. When I say forgive, I mean he's going to take into account this thing, whether you are repentant or you are not. You are going to reap as you sow. You will reap.
Thank you, Elder. Tando, you've been quiet. You said you are actually afraid of commitment. What would make you feel better about getting into a commitment? What well, for instance, Dr. D mentioned that your parents might actually be there to make that decision. Would that assist you? Would that make you feel better about getting into a covenant, a commitment?
Not really, because most of the reasons why I fear commitments is because of the older generation.
Explain a bit.
In the sense that we see married people, like the elderly married people, but out there they don't even act like married people. So I ask myself, what's the point of committing if I won't be able to honor the commitment at the end of the day?
I hear you. You have seen too many people who've committed and failed to keep the commitment. I understand you. I have seen that too. Sandy, I am just wondering.
Maybe Mrs. Machando, by failing, is she saying they are out of it, or she thinks they are not enjoying?
Some of them are out of it. Some are there and they claim to be staying for the kids. And of late, we've been seeing marriage commitments that last less than 3 months, and people are filing for divorce. So I would ask myself, what's the point of committing then? Why not let it be and not commit if we're not going to stand with the commitment?
Okay, I just needed clarification.
So Sandy, same question to you. When you do get to make the commitment, the covenant, what do you feel would be the things that can be put in place to help you? Would your parents be adequate, or would you need something else that would make you make a wise covenant or a wise commitment?
All right. I was privileged to grow up in an Adventist home where you get all these instructions. You don't do this, do this. So you have the map, like the guideline on whom to marry and how to navigate the dating. But then, because like she said, you have other role models who are our superintendent, church elders, and so you see them doing stuff, and then you feel like, let me just do what I can. So sometimes, even if you have this guideline or you are trying to do the right thing, you tend to be swayed from the right path by the wrong role models.
Thank you. Dr. D, unfortunately we are running out of time. I just wondered if you have any final few words to say to the young adults here on either the issue of covenants or the issue of taking care, chipping in with your parents.
Okay, so I will emphasize that it's important for us to take care of our parents financially, but even supporting them with chores, with roles, taking over some of the things that they do. Then concerning relationships, it's very concerning, it's very disturbing to see that our young people are looking up to the older generation for role models, but they are getting disappointed. Sadly, it's true that some relationships do not last, and those maybe that do, maybe people are struggling. I would like to say that there are happy relationships out there. You may not find role models, perhaps, in the circle where you are looking, but if you search hard, there are role models. There are people who are living happily married ever after. But it takes a lot of, there are some people who have been faithful, who have held themselves, who have preserved themselves, but sadly fallen into the wrong hands. The one wisdom that I can give is that in your relationship, make sure that on every step, God is involved. Because He's the one who can read minds. He's the one who can read the future. He's the one who can guide you so that you don't fall into the wolf's trap.
Thank you, Dr. D. Elder, any last words?
Yeah, the unfortunate part is, yes, what she's saying is true. It looks like marriages are not working, but were they designed not to work? That's the million-dollar question. Therefore, what we need to do is we need to put ourselves into reverse mode. Go back into the past of the elders and see where they took the wrong turn and start from there. The reason why your parent is always insisting on a specific course, it is because they know where they lost the mark. And they want you to go back there and start all over again. You see, young people, when we tell you that there are some relationships that are sustained by kissing, some are sustained by hallucinating, some are sustained by daydreaming. But all I want to tell you is a time is coming when daydreaming and everything else will come to an end. And the reality knocks on your door. And everyone else ceases to act and becomes. And that which you were ignoring becomes the normal. And that which you were dreaming then gets to be absent. A person can act for 2 minutes, but not forever. Unfortunately, we enjoy much of the acting than the real thing. That's the unfortunate part. Therefore, when we make these discussions, people are busy making decisions that their children are going to question tomorrow. Today you are questioning our decisions. Tomorrow your children will be questioning. But you'll be more guilty because you had a template.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elder. So in closing, to the law and to the testimony, whether it's looking after parents or it's giving your commitment, if it doesn't satisfy the law, if it doesn't satisfy the testimony, don't do it. Thank you.